Welcome back to He's a Giant, a pod about all things college football and all things Giants football. I'm your host, Sal, and here is my co-host, Monty. We apologize for being late. I was at swim practice with my kids and then watching the glorious victory of my New York Mets coming from 1-0 down in a decision game for the NLDS. Oh, it was awesome, man. I don't know if you were watching it. Francisco Lindor with a grand slam in the sixth inning. Mets go up on top. Hold on. Knock out the Phillies. Fuck Philly all day, every day. Let's go, baby. Mets were going on to the NLCS for the first time since 2015. My buddy Adam's in here. What's up, brother? What's up, Will? Let's go, Mets. Representing. And if you can't see, hold up. It's a little messy over here, but take a look at this.
What you got?
That
all right. There you go.
That's Queens. It's a 7 train. When I moved to Virginia many years ago, somebody who was very thoughtful that after I moved here, somebody here actually got that for me because she thought that I would be missing home. So, it was actually somebody who I worked with. So very nice of her. So I got that up.
That's awesome.
I haven't framed it yet, but I'll show you something else here. It's still in the plastic. You'll appreciate this. I don't know if you guys can see it. Recognize that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Autograph, too.
Autographed by Eli Manning. So I got some stuff. I'm working on putting some stuff together here.
Yeah, you got to get the studio set up.
Yep. And the last thing I have is, and I don't have it up right here. I was an old, for those old Met fans in here, I'm sure Will remembers, I know Adam does. In Old Shea Stadium, I used to be a partial season ticket holder. So when they tore it down, it was a sad moment. I was actually at their final game, which was unfortunately a loss. But when I was moving out of New York, my friends bought me a seat from the loge section, which was the blue seats, if those remember it, autographed by my favorite player as a kid, Gary Carter. So I've got that going up. You probably don't know who Gary Carter is.
No, Monty, I know who Gary Carter is.
Monty's a Red Sox fan, so he should remember the 1986 World Series. I don't know. Do you remember that one?
I remember, yeah, when I was 10 years before, 9 years before I was born.
All right. Well, we got a long way to go, Mets fans. It was a good night. Let's go, Mets. Anyway, we have to have a little fun with that tonight. Thank you guys for being patient, joining us late. That was on me. Monty was ready to go. He was not ready to go with linebacker reviews because we both got busy at work. But I was ready to go with my. It doesn't matter. We'll do it next week.
I'm not used. Sal's already used to this heavy work and dad life grind. I have one busy week at work, and I was like, I can't do it.
He fell apart. Sal, what was your favorite part of Tom Seaver coming up? Oh yeah, I remember Tom Seaver being a rookie. Of course, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, my favorite pitchers as a kid. No. I came of age during Will, here's an answer to your question. The reason I became a Mets fan, I'm still going to talk about the Mets. I don't care. The reason I became a Mets fan, I was 6 years old. It was 1984, and for those who remember, that's when we had dial-up TVs. You probably don't remember that, Monty, but that's when your dad would send you to the front of the house, and you'd have to change the stations and hold the antenna a certain way. Well, there were only like 7 channels or something in those days. One of them was Channel 9, WOR. And that's where, the reason I started watching that at night was I got into basketball as a kid. And Bernard King and the Knicks used to play on Friday night. They would show their games on WOR. One night I tuned in to watch what I thought was the Knicks, and the Mets were on. And there was a rookie pitcher pitching that night. And his name was Dwight Gooden. And I was hooked from that point forward. So that's how I got into it. So Dwight Gooden, I came of age with the Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, team, that coked out team of 1986 went and won the World Series. But I got into it in '84. Anyway, fun times.
Yeah, we got a lot of Mets fans in here. I'm sure we still got the Yankees fans are still watching their game. Mets fans are in here celebrating. So welcome, come celebrate,
come join us. Let's see what are the Yankees doing? They're winning, aren't they?
That's what I saw last.
The Yankees are probably. I think they didn't Stanton hit a home run, put him up. So if they hold on, they go up 2-1 in the series against the Royals, and they are 1 game from winning. All right, 3-2 Yanks, nice. Okay, middle of the ninth, going to the bottom of the ninth. We'll keep you guys updated. All right, man. So we don't have our planned linebacker review for this episode. And to be fair, we both got really busy, but it's, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser. It is a really good class. I was not just like last week. We were like, wow, this is a really good tight end class. I kind of felt the same way going through some of these linebackers. Now, I don't know about the depth of it. I only got so far, but I will say my top few guys were pretty solid players, modern day linebackers. So tune in next week when we do linebacker review. I think you guys will like it. Giants might be in the market for one next year. We'll see how it goes, even though Michael McFadden's playing great, but you just never know where this defense is going.
Yeah, you have no idea. And a lot of weeks, we try to look at stuff like Brugler's big board to try to get an idea of what guys we should look at for our review. Usually we'll take, there'll be a few in there, and then we'll try to, find some other guys we want to look at. This week, there is 5 guys right in Brugler's top 50 or 100, whatever he starts at. I think it's 50. So, yeah, it's a highly graded group as well.
Yeah, this is a good draft class for filling out your roster. There's going to be solid players on day 2, solid players on day 3. These are a lot of the guys who last year decided to not declare, take advantage of their final COVID year and go back to school. Yeah, maybe not the star power in this class, at least right now, not the same star power. Not as many blue chippers as we had. What do we have, like final 8 or 9 blue chippers last year when we did our final big board?
Something like that. Yeah,
right.
I think about 9.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have quite that many this year. I doubt it. I think we're going to be looking at like 3, maybe 3 or 4 guys who are blue chippers, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
We'll see. I mean, just off of what we've looked at, I mean, probably Will Johnson, Mason Graham. Travis Hunter's so weird. Like he'll be a blue chipper, but that's like only because he's like just below a blue chipper at 2 positions. Like
right, he's a blue.
I haven't looked him at a wide receiver yet.
He's a blue chipper. We just don't know what he's playing in the NFL. So that's the issue. But I think for me, the list kind of stops there for now. I can't think. Maybe Abdul Carter will get there. He's playing really. He's playing lights out right now. We'll get there when we get there. But again, next week linebacker review. But this week we're gonna. Yeah, of course, Genti. How can I forget?
He's not going to go, or he's not the typical blue chipper you want to be taking top of the draft, but he is a blue chipper.
All right. And by the way, those of you, Jabri's here booing us. I appreciate it, Jabri. All right, so we're not doing our linebacker review, although Jabri, your favorite player might be near the top of our class, and he's going to be a Giant in the 3rd round, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, Jabri. So, all right. Because we're not doing our positional review today, we're going to talk just straight up Giants talk some ball. So why don't you kick it off, Monty? Fill us in on what's going on in Giants land.
Look, man, I mean, there's a little bit of bad news today, and we'll get to that. But I'll say there's been, some weeks where I would not want to come on here and talk Giants for a full show because we've had some brutal weeks, but this is not one of those weeks. Giants went to Seattle, a game that both you and I really didn't think the Giants had any shot in, especially without, their star player and offense, Malik Neighbors, playing at one of the hardest stadiums to play in against a very good Seattle team, traveling, all the way across the country. And the Giants honestly dominated the game. I mean, they definitely had a chance to be losing at the end of the game, which you're not necessarily comfortable with, but they made a big play on special teams, which is not something we've been used to for a while. We've usually seen special teams big plays going against us.
What a play that was! We have to talk about that. But yeah, go ahead.
For sure, as Wheaton Warriors, we got to make sure we talk about that one. But yeah, man, I'm very happy with what I saw. It definitely gave me a lot more optimism to a lot of this stuff. I want to see it continue past this week. I trying not to get too ahead of myself because we've seen stuff like this before.
Hold up, Yankees win. Final score 3-2. Let's go. Good job, Yankees. They're up 2-1 in their NLDS series against the Royals. They got a chance to close them out tomorrow night in Kansas City. Good job, Yanks.
One step closer to New York Subway Series World Series. That'd be sick. All
right, go ahead, man.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was a hell of a game, man. There's a lot we can talk about it, but and we'll get into all of it. But what's your what were your thoughts on the game?
We whooped the shit out of them. I mean, that was an ass whooping. That was, I mean, a lot of us thought we were walking into Seattle, into the 12th man, no Malik neighbors. We probably didn't have much of a shot. The Giants came out and really beat the shit out of the Seahawks beginning to end. That was awesome. Congrats, Yankee fans. Let's go. Um, but no, they beat them in every part of the game. Daniel Jones, in my opinion, and we should probably talk about him a little bit. In my
Mhm.
opinion, that was the best football I've ever seen Daniel Jones play. Like better than the Minnesota game, better than the New Orleans game, better than the second half against Arizona. I mean, even better than rookie year Daniel Jones. Like that was some of the best football I've seen Daniel Jones play. And I realize it's one game. I'm definitely not a big Daniel Jones believer. He does this where he'll have a good game and then he'll fall apart and you got to see him stack it. But
Yep.
for one day, Daniel Jones played like a high level quarterback. He was making incredible reads. His ball placement was absurd. There's the one play Nick Falato put out. Nick and I were talking about it. I don't know. I think I showed it to you, right? Where the yeah, hit the like button. Thank you. Yes, Daniel Jones propaganda, Jabri. Year 7 loading. We're getting there. But no, I mean there was that one play where the sideline shot to Slayton down the right sideline where he and Hyatt were lined up out wide and both ran go routes. And you know something you don't see from Jones. For those who don't know, go to Nick Filato's page. He has it. He always does the cut ups. He does a great job on Big Blue Banter. And the Seahawks are showing cover 2, middle of the field open pre-snap. That's usually where Daniel Jones's brain locks. He doesn't really do much post-snap, and they immediately rotate. One of the safeties goes and becomes a buzz defender. The other safety, who was on the field side, which is where Slayton was lined up, rotates to the middle of the field to close it out. And Jones just very calmly diagnoses it, looks off the safety to the Hyatt side, and then gets Slayton one-on-one and just drops an absolute dime right in the breadbasket. And I was shocked when I saw that play. I was like, "Who is this guy?" Like,
Yeah.
So again, it's one game. I'm not going crazy. He's done stuff like this before, but you got to give him credit. He was fantastic in that game, and they really killed him. Tyrone Tracy was ridiculous in the run game. I mean, I forgot what his total numbers were. He was averaging like 10 yards a carry or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It was 7, I think, or something from that game.
yeah, and he had what 3 explosive plays or something like that, or counting 3 10+ yard runs, I think.
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
Yeah, and the defense was great. They were getting pressures. Dexter Lawrence. We got to talk about this for a second. Ryan Grubb is the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, and he was the OC for those who love college football. He was the University of Washington OC with Michael Penix last year, and we love that offense. Like very creative, really well designed. That man had Anthony Bradford and rookie Christian Haynes rotating at right guard and going one-on-one against Dexter Lawrence,
Insane. Stupid.
a second-year rotational right guard and a rookie right guard who we really like, but he's a rookie, going one-on-one against Dexter Lawrence. What did you think was going to happen, Ryan Grubb? I mean, there's the one play where poor Christian Haynes tries to get his hands up, and he just gets forklifted by Dex, carried into Gino, and he just collapses like an ogre on top of them. Yeah, that's a good way to lose a football game. So Giants won that game in all facets. So
Yeah.
I was pretty pumped to see how well they played. We got to see them. We got to see them stack it, right? You got to see them build on it, because if it's just one win and they lose this weekend, you kind of lose all the juice from it. But
Exactly.
for one game, I was really thrilled.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was one of the best games altogether that I've seen from the Giants in a while. Just from all facets. Jabri just posted in the chat the official numbers were 18 carries, 129 yards, and 7.2 yards per carry for Tracy. And I pulled up PFF. He had 4 runs of 10+ yards, two runs of 15+ yards. So, yeah, Tracy had a great day. This rookie class is looking very promising.
Yeah.
Again, we'll let it play out, but a lot of promising, good play from these guys. Yeah, man. It was a great thing to see. I don't know. I don't expect the Seattle game for the rest of the season from this team or from Daniel Jones, but like, what level do these guys regress to? Is it a big drop, or is it just like, can they continue to, granted, to what we were talking about this read, like, can they just continue to compete with every team they play with, like they've been doing outside that Minnesota game? They can continue to play these games to the end. but be able to finish and like they did for Seattle and, make those big plays when it matters. That's going to be the difference in the record at the end of the season is playing these games close and making the big play when it matters. So we'll see, man, but definitely promising. I'll say one of the most impressive things to me, just thinking back on it a little more, was really Brian Dable's play calling in that game. Like if you give the context of what he was going up against, I mean, Seattle's got a talented defense, and Mike McDonald is one of the best defensive minds in all of football. And he went in there without his number one wide receiver, who was like 50% of his targets in that offense, and he really dominated that defense. I mean, he got good play out of Daniel Jones. That's definitely a big part of that, but they straight dominated that defense.
Now, because we're not doing a formal review of positional players, we're going to interact with people today, and I don't really care. So I'm going to respond to all of these absurd comments. Yeah. So Monty, I don't even know how to. Monty does the IT shit. I don't know what I'm doing here. All right, let's go to
pull them up when you say them.
I appreciate it. So we got to scroll up a little bit. So Ray says Sal is drinking the Kool-Aid. You can pull that up. Ray knows. I know what Ray's talking about. No, Ray, this is Celsius grape. Celsius grape sparkling. What I need to drink at this hour because my ass gets up at like 5:45 to work out and get my family ready. So, this is not Kool-Aid. It is grape though, and it's delicious. Highly recommend. All right. Antonio says, Sal looking jacked. HGH working. Once again, I am not on HGH. I do not take steroids. I'm high on life and Celsius. Celsius, if you are watching, we are open for sponsorships. We are fans of your product. Celsius sparkling grape to get you going. Only 10 calories. So if anybody knows Celsius, let them know. He's a giant. We're fans, and we're ready to take your money.
There you go. We'll take it. We'll take just free Celsius even.
That's right. We'll take free Celsius. I would appreciate that. It would save me a few bucks on Amazon. All right. No, man, you're right on with all of that. But let's, I think the Giants had a great game. It was one of those days where like everything went right. When I saw Nacho knock a ball down, I was like, oh man, Nacho's doing things. We're winning this football game. When I saw DJ Davidson get 2 sacks, I was like, oh, we're winning this football game. When I saw Geno Smith on the final drive burn a timeout for no reason, I was like, we're gonna win this football game. And when he threw that out pass to the flat to JSN, who dropped it for no reason, because let's be real, he had Andrew Phillips beat with leverage. He catches that ball, he's turning the corner, he's going up the field, and for no reason, JSN drops it. When he dropped it, I don't know about you, Monty, but I was watching that. I'm like, they're not hitting this field goal. We're going to either block this thing or they're going to miss it, but we're winning this football game. I had zero doubt in my mind with all those things happening. It might have just been one of those days. We'll take it as Giants fans. But let's get into what's going on this week. Bad news today, of course. We can't be Giant fans without like terrible shit happening for no reason. Brian Dable gets up there. And for those who don't know, I think he's a very good X's and O's coach, but Brian Dable pisses me the fuck off, and I really can't stand the guy. He's a ridiculous human being. Wannabe fucking Belichick. But he gets up there. Did you watch the press conference?
I watched it, yeah.
He's such an asshole. Like, he's such a dick. Like, I think Dan Duggan wants to punch him so hard in the face, like, because Duggan was asking him.
Reporters hate him.
Yeah, like what happened to Kayvon? He just says Kayvon in the injury report. He says he's got a wrist. He's got a wrist. Okay. So what does that mean? He's week to week. And then Duggan follows up and says, sometimes, Brian, you say week to week. It means like many, many weeks. Can you elaborate? He's like, he's week to week. He's got a wrist. And they're like, well, how did he get it hurt? And he's like, in the game. He's such a jackwagon. I don't know why he does this. I don't know what he thinks he's accomplishing. I know some people appreciate him being like this. I don't think it serves him any good. But bottom line is Kayvon Thibodeau fractured his hand. I don't know what hand was it. Was it the left or the right? Did they say?
I don't remember. It was wrist though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he broke the scap. Yeah, the scaphoid bone, which is right here on the wrist. They're 8 little bones, small bones that stabilize your wrist, right here at the base of the hand. The scaphoid bone is right here, and he broke it. And it's one of the more common stress fracture bones. it hurts like hell. That's the one where like if you have you ever hit like a heavy bag and boxed,
Mhm.
like you can break that bone easily with like the wrong angle on your hand, if you're not taped up properly. If you throw a
Probably
punch
some
at somebody.
punch
Right. I
kind of,
mean,
yeah.
or let me put it in terms you would understand, West Virginia graduate. If you were in a drunken brawl after a West Virginia football game and you were in a random fight outside of the stadium and you hit somebody wrong while drunk, that's the bone you might break. So
Got it. Oh,
anyway,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
get it now. so, so he breaks it, and then he had surgery this morning. So Kayvon
Mhm.
has surgery on the scaphoid. They pinned it this morning, so he has a pin in there. He's probably in a cast, um, and he's out now. The average time people are out from this is about 6 weeks, which is tough. That would take us right past the bye week, um, and it sucks, man, because Kayvon was playing really good football.
He was really, really good. Like, it doesn't necessarily show up in, like, the PFF numbers or anything like that, but he was playing good football. No, make no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean
The whole
he
defensive line was really.
and they were gelling. That's the worst part, right? They were like,
Mhm.
especially Burns, Kayvon, and Dex are beginning to gel. You were seeing Shane Bowen use more stunts and twists. You were seeing them use simulated pressures, which is what was his calling card was supposed to be. It was beginning to come together. Kayvon was getting comfortable, and I know a lot of people give him a hard time, but if you were paying attention to Kayvon, he was using power. He was using actual power to like push. I mean, he had Charles Cross in hell in the last game. He was overpowering him. He was using inside moves on him. His game was coming together. To see Kayvon get hurt now just sucks. I thought he was right on the verge of like having a breakout, but that'll take him out till like the second half of the season, and who knows how comfortable he'll be, how strong he'll be when he comes back. Um,
Yeah. I
no,
mean,
that's a separate issue for him, but that it's going to be tough.
yeah, it'll be interesting how long. I'd say second half of the season is probably pretty fair because that's like 3, 4 weeks away. But he'd probably come back, I assume, at some point with a club or something if he wants to. But
Looking
he's
like
gonna get a little time.
JPP, yeah,
Yeah,
looking like yeah, except he's not as strong as JPP.
yeah, that's true.
I saw JPP didn't JPP have a pick six with a club on his hand or something?
I think that's true.
Yeah. Um, so we lose Kayvon. Next man up is Aziz Ojulari.
Good depth.
Yeah, and Aziz has been having a good year. Like quietly, Aziz has been having a real good year. I know Jabri and I talk about this a lot. We would like to see Aziz brought back no matter what. We would
Hmm.
like to see the Giants actually keep a good football player. But this is actually now going to get interesting because this is Aziz's chance to shine and make some money. So we don't have much depth behind him. I wonder what the Giants are going to do, but it looks like it's going to be Aziz and it's going to be Brian Burns with Dex. So what do you think this defense looks like now? Like we were seeing it really emerge. Do you see big changes on the defense with Kayvon gone and Aziz in and the depth kind of cut into it?
I think that Aziz is a um a much smaller downgrade than you typically see from like a player of Kayvon's caliber, but it still hurts. I mean, like you said, like these guys are starting to gel. I feel like Kayvon was really coming into his own, but Aziz is a good player. I feel like he's when he's gotten out onto the field, he's been decently impactful. He hasn't gotten really many opportunities, so we'll see. I mean, I'm just like kind of looking. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up his our numbers from this year, and it looks like he didn't even get a pass rush snap or a true pass rush snap in that last game. But see the pass rush win rates on this team. It looks like Aziz Ojulari's at about 10.6%, which isn't great, and his true pass rush win rate is at 16%, which is only 0.7% lower than Kayvon on
Yeah.
true pass rush. So,
He's been I think Antonio put in the chat, Aziz has been really solid playing the run. He's
mhm,
he's shown a lot of advancement in that, which is something he was good at. If you remember coming out of Georgia, his calling card, he was pretty good against the run. It wasn't clear if he was going to be a great pass rusher. And then his rookie year, he had what 8.5 sacks or whatever it was, or 9.5 sacks. Um, and all of a sudden there was this knock on him, like, oh, he can't play the run, but I think he's been pretty solid. playing the run this year. So I think Aziz does have a chance to come in and, like make it this relatively seamless. I don't think he's as good as Kayvon as an all-around football player, but he's still a good football player. I don't want him to be forgotten. I just hope he stays healthy because he's had his own injury issues in the past. After Aziz, the depth gets real dicey. The next man up would be Boogie Basham, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not even sure who's on the team at that point. Did they I mean, do you call up Timon Fox at that point? Is it Bentley? Like who's your backup edge at that point?
Yeah, I don't really even know. Like as far as guys who even like I can look at who's gotten even pass rush reps. Yeah, we got Kayvon, Burns, Aziz, and then not a single other edge on this team has gotten a true pass rush rep. So yeah, it gets pretty weak after that. Yeah, I mean
I guess Patrick Johnson's on the team, right?
Mhm.
So he's more of an outside linebacker, but I guess they have him playing in that position. But yeah, we will see what the Giants do. It just sucks to lose Kayvon now. So we lose Kayvon. Everybody else seems pretty healthy going into this game. I think Malik Neighbors is still in. He's still in concussion protocol,
Yep.
but he's in like whatever phase 3 of the protocol. So I guess the expectation is he should clear it before the game and be
Hopefully.
ready to play. Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, he
It's been
had
2 weeks.
he had it when we played a Thursday night game. So, I thought I'm glad he didn't play outside just the fact that we won without him. So, like, really good he didn't play. But I'm glad I didn't want to rush that guy back at all. I know you really can't rush guys. Concussions kind of just is what it is. But I'm glad he got the extra time. But yeah, I mean, I would hope he's back because that for typical concussions that we've seen, especially a first concussion, that feels like a pretty much the right amount of time. It would worry me if he wasn't ready.
Let's talk about this upcoming game. The Giants have the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. The 1-4 Cincinnati Bengals, the struggling, horrendous defense Cincinnati Bengals, who are giving up. Listen to this: 29 points per game on defense. 29 points per game. While Joe Burrow is quietly having essentially the best season of any player in the NFL playing quarterback. That they're giving up 29 points per game. He's putting up an MVP season on his own quietly, and they're losing football games because they can't stop anybody on defense. That is the primetime Sunday night game. NBC tried to flex that thing off and get the Ravens and Commanders game on, but
Wish they did.
Right. Yeah, I know. And
To
CBS
see
said
primetime
nope.
dimes might actually win it.
CBS said nope. We're keeping that Baltimore game, so that we're going to see the Giants on Sunday night. Let's talk about this matchup. What's your feel going into this game against the Bengals?
I mean, I feel good in general. I feel good about the Giants team. I want to see them, carry what they did the last week into this game. I think it's a good challenge. The Bengals are not a pushover as a total team whatsoever. They have a great offense. They just have a disappointing defense. They have talented players on that team. If we come out, we play them at home, we beat them on national television at home against the Bengals after that big win against the Seahawks, like that's when I really can get excited about this football team. If we come out and we win, I will be fully sipping the Kool-Aid and we'll be in on this team might be able to like get some wins and compete and be something this year. We'll be at 500. But you mentioned it earlier, they come out and get their ass kicked, which is, I mean, look, that's the tough offense to slow down. And Daniel Jones is not playing at the level he was last week. It's going to be hard to keep up with an offense like that. So I feel I'm excited for the game. I feel confident that we have a shot in this game, but I'm more, there's obviously it's, we've seen this plenty of times for the Giants. I could easily see this all come crashing down. So I'm trying to be optimistic, but we'll see. How are you feeling?
So Vegas, I think, started us at like 5.5 point underdogs at home, and I haven't checked the most recent line, but I
I
know it
think we're
came
three
down.
and a half.
Yeah, it came down quite a bit. But I mean, you're a home underdog on prime time. I'm not a gambler. I'm not a sports gambler certainly, and that from what I understand, that's usually like the kiss of death for teams. It's not a good sign for a team at home. But I have to say, like, I've watched the Bengals play, and that defense is really bad. Like
Brutal.
that they are. I don't know what's gotten into them. Like I know they have some injuries, but like that secondary is absolute food. Um, Cam Britt is playing terrible, and he had a good year last year. I think their other corner,
Jackson Hill.
DJ. Well, DJ Turner is playing all right, but yeah, they lost Dax Hill to injury. He's lost for the season, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have a lot of injuries in the secondary, and their front seven's not playing well. They're not getting there. They're just getting torched by teams. I mean, you saw Jaden Daniels rip them to shreds. So I'm not very impressed by the way their defense is playing. And this is legitimately a defense that, if Daniel Jones can stack games here, right, and that's the essential part. If he can stack games and play at the level he played in the last game, and you get back a healthy Malik Neighbors, if he's truly healthy, and you got Darius Slayton playing well with some momentum coming off the last game, and Wandell is healthy. They actually incorporated Theo Johnson a little bit in the last game. If you've got all these guys, and Tyrone Tracy is now a weapon that you're learning how to use, the Giants should be able to drop 30 plus on this team. Like this is a game where you expect our offense to come out and drop 35 points on them. That really is the expectation coming into this game. I don't know what else to think, right? Like you're going to have to win a shootout. Now, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow's drop. I actually don't think that Joe Burrow is going to score 30 points on us, only because of the way Shane Bowen plays defense. It's just hard to score 30 against this defense. They play a lot of bend but don't break kind of stuff, but he's going to score a lot of points. I think it's hard to imagine Joe Burrow not coming out and putting up at least like 24 to 27 points, something like that. If you want to win this football game, you got to put up 28 to 30. That's how I'm looking at it. So I don't see why the Giants can't do that. I'm expecting them to do it because you're at home. You're coming off a win. It's Sunday Night Football. You know, we need to actually see wins like this for once as a fan base. We need to see this team come out and like stack wins and win a big game at home and send a message that they're for real. And I don't see on paper why they shouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, it's a bad defense. You should be able to take advantage of it. I mean, look what you just did against Seattle, which is a good defense. Away, like this should theoretically be a team that you could do that again this week. Like, obviously you played above what you really kind of expect this team to last week, but now you're playing a worse defense, so you should be able to do it. I just want to, I want to show this to you, Sal. I'll show this to everybody here real quick. Just kind of give everybody an idea about like where these guys kind of sit, and I'll just zoom in a little bit. Take a look at this is just kind of where everybody sits. So if we look at like the offense, essentially rush EPA and drop back EPA, you can see that the Bengals are sitting here right here as one of the top teams in football. If I scroll down, you can see they're number 3 on EPA per play overall, 0.159, only behind Washington, who's playing out of their minds right now, and Baltimore, having a really good season. Giants are all the way down here at 22, kind of like, really not quite there as a rush per EPA, but pretty average drop back EPA. But then you switch over to defense, and it's going to take a second. There it is. You can see where the Bengals sit. Bengals are struggling. You see them, they're all the way on the opposite side. They are 30th in defensive EPA per play. Just brutal on everywhere with this between pass and run. Really, really bad team. They see the Giants sitting here pretty much like average. So, Giants pretty much average in both spots to some level, while Bengals are kind of Jekyll and Hyde there between their offense and defense. So it's a really interesting matchup between the Giants and the Bengals, where the Giants don't really have a big strong suit, but the Bengals do, but they are very deceptible on defense. So I was looking at that today.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Monty is using the RBSDM website. So for those of you who are really into advanced stats and analytics, or if you want to learn about it, the two websites that I would recommend that have free data, well, three that have free data. RBSDM allows you to run a lot of different permutations for offense, defense, quarterbacks. It allows you to like set up the filters however you want,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you a good idea of things like EPA and success rate, and defines the things for you. Um, NFL Next Gen Stats has a great page for certain stats, and for quarterbacks or passing, it has great charts in terms of like the charted throws and good data all around. And then the Pro Football Reference is a really good
Yeah.
one, actually. So that's a simple one to use for those who know baseball. Baseball Reference is like the same thing. It's the same format. But Pro Football Reference, if you kind of toggle through the page, you will see a place to put advanced stats for different categories, and you get a good look at some of these things. And the whole point of advanced stats is try to, essentially, it's to say we're going to take a deeper dive than just basic statistics and look at things that try to remove variables to really get a clear idea of how well a player or a team is playing. So if you get a chance, check those three websites out: RBSDM, NFL Next Gen Stats, and Pro Football Reference. Anyway, but yeah, getting back to what you're saying, Monty, like, yeah, the Bengals offense is fantastic. Their defense is horrendous. Um, the stats bear it out. I mean, the real stats bear it out. They're struggling. Now, they did play some good teams along the way, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to be fair, like, the Commanders have been a really good offense this year. So they torched them for a bunch of points, and the
Yep.
Ravens torched them. So they've been playing good offense. Now, the one team that they gave up a bunch of points to that's not a good team is the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
I think that was Andy Dalton's, what was that, his second game or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, hard to know. The Bengals team had a players only defensive meeting today. Did you see that?
No, I didn't
Um,
see that. Not
yeah,
great. Not great for us.
yeah. So they had like a sit down where they didn't even invite the coaches, and they sat down and they basically just talked it through, and they said we've got to get things together, and we've got to take accountability for not playing well. So we'll see what that translates to. I mean, I don't know if there's a way they can, you know, pump themselves up to be better at what they're doing, or this is just a talent thing. I mean, there's not a lot of different players than last year. They're just playing terrible. The same
Mm-hmm.
coach is still Lou Anarumo, who's one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL.
A lot of head coaching interviews for him.
I mean, especially the Giants, right? The Giants
Yeah.
interviewed him a couple when they hired
Mm-hmm.
Brian Dable. He was
He was a
one of the
fine.
finalists. Yeah.
He was a finalist with Kafka for the Cardinals job a couple of years ago.
So I don't really know what's going on over there, but right now, just going into the game, that's a defense that's really struggling, and the Giants are surging a little bit in the way they're playing football. So you would like to see the Giants just come in flat out and put up 30-something points to win this game. And
Yeah.
I think that's how I'm looking at this game. And I'll be honest, like, I'm not doing this to troll. Like, to me, if the Giants don't come out and win this football game, it's not even about the number of points they score. If they find a way to lose this game, I'm gonna be so just disappointed that, like, they couldn't follow up last week with a victory in a game they really should be winning. So, are they going to stack wins? That to me is the biggest question, and I think they are in a good position to. That's the game. We'll see how it shapes out. We should probably do a quick deep dive into the Giants and where they stand, though. So, like, 5 games in, what's your
Mm-hmm.
feel for this team? We're 2-3. We started 0-2. We got to 2-3. How do you how do you feel about this team? The players, the coaches. What record do you think we're headed for? Give me your thoughts.
I feel decent about this team. I mean, like, I think the Vikings game was, it was a mix of a few things. I think it was, clearly a rusty Daniel Jones. I think it was, first, you know, Dable calling plays for the first time in years, Bowen, really getting his defense for the first time. There's a lot of factors that really added up to it. And then I think the one that people have pointed out, being probably the biggest one is the Vikings are a very, very good football team right now. Like a very good football team, probably the best defense in football right now. And, um, Kevin O'Connell really has Darnold cooking with that offense. So, we we had a lead. We were the only team in the NFL who had a lead on the Vikings at one point in a game this season. So we didn't get totally demolished, but it really was not a good game.
The 3-0 after the Andrew Phillips fumble that got us the ball at the 20-yard line.
Yeah, that's about it. But that's better than anybody else has gotten. But yeah, that was a bad game all around. It was a bad game. But since then, we've been competitive in every football game we've played. Washington, we should have won. We should have beat Washington. Really can blame the coach, the Brian Dable and Joe Shane for not preparing better when making sure we had a kicker available for us. That really costed us some, among other things, but that being the biggest one. Shane Bowen, that performance doesn't look as bad as it did previously. Didn't allow a single touchdown, but also not great when they don't punt once, but when they went ahead and did that again the next week. Still not great, but he's bounced back. Cowboys game we should have won, but we couldn't get into the end zone, and Daniel Jones couldn't hit the deep ball. It is what it is. We lost that game. But the Browns game, we beat them. Browns aren't a great team this year by any means. They have a decent defense, but they're not a great team by any means. And then Seattle was a legitimately good win. So, I don't like playing we'd be 4-1 game because we could also be, 0-5. I don't like playing that game. At the end of the day, our record is what our record is. We're 2-3. We're a 2-3. You are what your record says you are. But it does matter how you're losing these games. Last year, we were getting absolutely murdered in these games. We weren't even competitive. We looked terrible. If I just pulled up the RBSDM stats with the EPA and stuff. If you look that up last year, we were bottom of the league in everything. We're closer to the middle of the road and everything, which is probably what this team is now. We're about a middle of the road team. But here's the thing, we played above our weight class this week for Seattle, and that's what I said going into the season. I want to see this team. I want to see the young guys show up, which a lot of them have. And I want to see us punch above our weight class, which we have at times. So, but it's got to result in wins. You can see how fast this thing turns. When we were losing games, it didn't matter that we were competitive versus the Cowboys after beating the Browns. You saw how fast this fan base had the pitchforks up. If you stack wins here, the optimism is going to change even if it's followed by a loss. So if we get a couple stacked and it's just not excitement immediately followed by disappointment, it will help. But at the end of the day, man, we need wins. And I think we can get wins. As far as how many I think we'll get, I'm probably back up closer to 6 wins, but I think there's potential for I feel better that there's potential for more than I did previously, but I still really need to see more from the Giants to really feel confident that there's a real potential for that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of back to we got here in a weird way, but I'm kind of back to my preseason prediction of 6-11. And that's, I'll be honest, that's not good enough. They're going to have to earn their way to something better. I've been clear about it. I don't think that moral victories mean a damn thing, especially in year 3 of a regime. You got to win football games. You have a veteran quarterback you're paying a lot of money to. You have some key veteran players on this team. Even though it's a young football team, the leaders of this team are guys who've been around the league a little bit now. And they're all playing to win. You've heard them talk about how disgusted they are by losing, how they're ready to win. You have to just win football games. There's no rule that you have to wait till X number of years into a regime or whatever to win football games. Winning doesn't start because it's a special time of a time frame within the life of a GM and head coach. Winning starts when you start winning, and I think nothing is stopping these guys from stepping on the field and actually just stacking football wins together. And so I want to see them change my mind as a fan. I'll be honest. I was happy to see them beat Seattle. I'm always happy to see them win football games, but it's hard for me to get excited about the Giants, in a way where I'm like sitting at the edge of my seat, you know, until they actually show me some consistency here and
Hmm.
stack wins and show me, hey, we're gonna do something special. Like the beginning of 2022 was special, right? Say what you want, like of all the decisions that were made after 2022 and whatever harm they've done in the long run, those were choices the general manager made, but that had nothing to do with the fun ride that was 22. And I mean, let's be honest, it was fun, right? It was
Hmm.
fun to see them come in week after week, find ways to win football games. You were excited to wake up to watch that game in London. You were excited to, watch every football game for the Giants because you thought you have a shot to win this game. And I want to feel like that again as a fan. I just don't believe in them right now enough to really buy into it fully. Um, because if this is just gonna be one of those seasons where you get, like, a good win here and you can't stack them together and you have 2 losses and then a win, 2 losses and a win, and you end up at 6 and 11, is that a good season?
Hmm.
Is that where you wanna be? Even if the young players look better, like, how do you feel coming out of that? I don't feel confident in this regime coming out of that, you know? You
Yeah.
have to you can't just flip the switch and become winners overnight. Winning is something that we talked about this when we talk about quarterbacks when we did our reviews. There are guys who win, right? There are guys who close out football games, who know how to win. It's a thing. It's a real thing. And I think a locker room and a culture has to adapt to that. It has to become that. You can't just flip the switch and become it overnight. You have to actually stack victories and feel it and then go get it week after week. So until they do that, I'm skeptical. But there's enough talent on this team, and they've shown me enough the first 5 weeks. I'll say this, Monty, even though I still think they're kind of going to probably end up where I fear they will. I've seen enough from this offense and this defense and from this coaching staff to think there's no reason why they can't be in just about every single football game they play.
Hmm.
And if you're in the game, then it just comes down to execution in like the fourth quarter, right? Like execution on big drives and big
Yep.
moments, putting the ball in the end zone instead of getting a field goal, making a big defensive stop, getting a turnover. It's things like that that turn losses into victories, and they're fully capable of doing it. I don't know if they will, but I think that that's what I need to see from them. Right now, I'm pleasantly surprised that they're at 2-3 the way they started, but I'm not fully bought in yet, if that makes sense. I'm still
No,
waiting to see.
it's totally fair. I think I'm exactly with you, man. I think like, look, I feel decent about this team. I'm with you. I feel like they can be like they've shown me enough that they can be competitive in these football games. That they can go up. They're gonna have a week where they get blown out. That's nature in the NFL. Like that can happen to any team at any week. I don't expect the Giants to be competitive in every single game, but by and large, I do expect them to be competitive. And if you're competitive in every single game, it like you said, it comes down to you know, having a winning mentality, having guys who can make plays in the biggest moments and, finish a game. And that's what we need to see. We need to see that this coaching can get them there and that we've added players to this roster who can put them in the position to do that. And that's where we are, man. And, we've talked about it. I feel Look, I'll say this. I feel good about what I saw about Brian Dable. Brian Dable is I'm a little bit like I'm a little bit higher on him than you have been. But at the end of the day, I think we agree that, whether, I'm a little higher or you're a little higher, it doesn't really matter. If you do not feel confident you are going to give him at least 2 more years after this year, you can't bring him back to draft a rookie quarterback just to fire him a year later. So I need Brian Dable to prove that he's to ownership and to everybody that he is not on the hot seat going into the next year at all, and that he has equity and he will get at least 2 years after this to
Yeah,
draft a quarterback. And he
I
should
think
get an
we're
extension if that's the case.
and that's where we both are, I think, and we both agree, and I think a few of us agree that depending and they shouldn't just get it for the sake of getting it. They should earn it, right? They should
Mhm.
show something to the fan base, to the ownership, to the whole league this year. They're not just worthy of getting one more shot at it next year. That they are the guys, right? That whatever happens, these are your guys for the next 3, 4 years. I want to believe in Brian Dable. I want to believe in Joe Shane. I really do. I give them shit every day because they give me reason to give them shit. But I actually want to believe in these guys. I need them to convince not just me, but the whole fan base, the whole NFL world, that they are worthy of sticking around for 3 or 4 years. I want them to do it so decisively that after the season, if where they're headed is we're going to take a quarterback in whether it's first, I don't think it's going to be a first round quarterback, but we can have that discussion later. But we're going to take a young quarterback, or we're going to go get another veteran, or we're just going to roll with Jones, whatever it may be. If you're letting them continue this ride, but especially if you're drafting a young quarterback, I want John Mara to double down and say, these are my guys. I'm giving them 3 years here. Like on top of what they've had, I'm giving them like at least a 2-year extension.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be here through 2027, and I'm giving them that time to keep building this roster and getting their quarterback and developing him, because the last thing I want to see is them come into next season gun to their head, barely surviving this year, right? Like the worst case scenario to me is they finish 7-10 and they show just enough where they survive barely, and Mara says to them, okay, I'm not going to fire you, but here's the thing. You better win next year. And I'm not putting up with any crap next year. And in that nasty environment, they go and draft a rookie quarterback, and they put it all on his shoulders. To me, that's the ultimate crisis. If you do that, you're basically wrecking this regime, you're wrecking that young quarterback, and you're wrecking the future of the Giants for the next few years. Do not go into a situation like that. Either give them an extension, let them earn it, give it to them, and say, you're our guys. You develop a quarterback and take us to the promised land. Or just, in my opinion, if you can't do that, then after 3 years, you should rip off the bandage and say, didn't work. Let's get new guys in here. It's that simple. I think that if you can't commit to them beyond next year, you should fire them after this year. And I do believe that wins and losses are going to ultimately decide that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think Brian Dable has the ability to be a good coach. I think he's shown flashes of it. I'm still, torn on Shane. I'm definitely less optimistic, but he's so far his draft class has looked really promising this year, so that's a good start. Despite a lot of things I question in the past, start earning my trust back. But Brian Dable, for all his faults, has shown me a lot of promise as a coach. It's one thing I have said is that I think, in a different universe, if he got put in a situation where he could, really show off his strengths as a head coach and work on his weaknesses and have time to win games and work on his weaknesses as, a first-time head coach, I really think he could be a successful head coach. And maybe that can be a thing here, but it's a hell of a lot harder here with the situation he's gotten put into, because he's under a microscope and all his flaws are on full display, and we're all very much aware of them. He is going to have to coach his ass off right now to get this team to win football games and build back the equity that they quickly burnt away last year after making the playoffs in their first year. I'm rooting for them, especially Dable, because I truly think Dable can be a good coach to earn that back. But at the end of the day, look, everybody sits here and says, you got to be patient, you got to be patient, you got to be patient. And I understand that. In a perfect world, the teams are running things. We're progressively getting better. And I'm okay with sitting here and building this thing like a freaking college program and just building up, as long as, we're building a good foundation. But the reality is this isn't college. This is the NFL. Coaches don't survive 3 back-to-back losing seasons. And when they do survive 3 back-to-back losing seasons, you have something like Robert Saleh getting fired at fucking week 5 of the season and getting his card taken away. And it's just embarrassing for the franchise and bad for the development of players on that roster. So, I would rather make the decision too soon than the decision too late. That's where I am on it. And that's why I'm rooting for these guys. And look, even if at the end of the day, if I'm just give them an extension, if you bring them back, even if I am not fully sold, I would rather extension because it would make me feel good that they are actually going to get time, because here's the thing. The people are looking at it's like, oh, they'll just play to the end of it, and that will give him the 2 years. That's not how it works in the NFL. Unless you're the Dallas Cowboys, coaches don't play out their contract. They get extended before their contract is over. So if you are planning for sure to keep him beyond that, then you are going to extend him for it. So just do it now. So that's where I'm at. I think I want to see Brian Dable earn a contract extension this year. Brian Dable and Joe Shane to earn a contract extension. And that's what I'm going to be rooting for this year. I'm not worried about this quarterback class. There's guys who promised me, and we'll get into that. We're going to do a quarterback review, but but it's a deep class. I am much more worried about, getting an answer on our head coach and GM.
I agree. You want to pull up Jabri's last comment there?
Yep.
The last two comments, actually. I think let's start
Sure.
with the first one. So, and I agree with this. Jabri says they need to fix their adjustments in the second half of games. It's too many times that they have a strong first half and they barely survive the second half. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Jabri.
Mhm.
Like, we've seen that, right? Like, they start strong. I think they're outscoring their opponents by like a shit ton in the first quarter and the first half. Do we lose Monte? There we go. You flip the screens.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, they need to be better at second half adjustments. I think it's a real thing. I know people say, "Oh, it's not a thing." It's a thing. And they're getting out coached in the adjustments, or maybe just outplayed. They do have to get better at it. So I agree. And I think if you don't do that this week, actually, the Bengals are known for this, especially Lou Anarumo. Historically, not this year, but he's been a defensive coach that, if you look at his history, has put the clamps on teams in the second half by just adjusting to whatever game plan the offense is using. So even if the Giants are winning early in this game, they need to be able to adapt to whatever the Bengals throw at them. I fully agree with that. And then Jabri's second comment, if Dable splits with Dallas and beats Philly, do you guys think he's safe? So I'm assuming you mean sweep Philly and split with Dallas.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say that's the case. That's 3 wins on top of what we have. That's 5 wins. And then you would imagine they'd find another 2 or 3 wins somewhere. So that puts us around like 7, 8 wins.
With a couple of really important wins, especially to the ownership.
Do I think he survives? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think he
if he does
survives.
that.
I don't know if it's enough to get an extension, which is what we're hoping for, but I think it's enough to survive.
Sweep or just split with Philly. So that's 2 more wins, and then maybe let's just say you split with the Commanders, you beat the Panthers. That's 4 more wins. That's 6 right there, and you find another win on the schedule somewhere like Indianapolis, right, or New Orleans. You're talking about getting to 7 or 8. That's your path to get to 7 or 8 wins, right? And I think if he gets to 7 or 8 wins, he probably survives.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'll say too, what we're kind of just talking about. I'm just going to pull it back up because I already had it here. Jabri talking about we need to make adjustments and that we've been playing better in the first half. Just a quick look at it here. I mean, this is our defense in the first half, so above average in our pass defense and just below in a run. And then really where you can see this on offense is, where was it? This was okay. And then, oh yeah. So, but really where you see it is this is quarters 3 and 4. We are really struggling, and especially in our drop back EPA. We are among the bottom of the league. Let's see, they have us at 30th in our combined EPA per play.
In the second half.
In the second half. And then if you go to the first half with our offense, take a look at this. So I was just taking a look while we did this. Look at that. Look,
Yeah.
We are among the top of the league. I mean, we are 13 here overall, but it looks like we are top 5 in our drop back EPA.
Yeah.
So
now, I wonder how much of that, like from us, analyzing the data, how much of that is just the Giants have had leads in a lot of these games in the second half, and which is not something we're used to, but they do. And then you've got the Shane Bowen style of defense, which is like if you have a lead, you cushion it, and you let teams have yardage. You let them get positive plays that would generally add up your, and work towards your EPA and your success rate looking good. But your goal is to just kind of milk the clock, keep them on the field if they need to be on the field, but don't let them score with any explosive plays and hold them to field goals. How much of that do you think is playing into this?
I definitely think there's probably an aspect to that. I think there's probably an aspect that the Giants aren't good at that. The Giants need to learn how to. I call for it every week. I'm like, let's kill them. Like, let's put them away. Just kill them. Put the kill shot in. And when we don't put the kill shot in, like, it usually ends up poorly for us. It didn't this week, thank God. We got the kill shot in special teams right at the end of the game. But I want to put the kill shot in on offense, and we just haven't done that.
Well, and that's something that people forget because we ended the game with such a great moment with the block on the amazing play by Simmons and the BFW touchdown. But the Giants were in complete command of that game. And yet, Geno Smith was marching down to win the football game at the end. And again, like,
let them.
right, and were it not for like a blown timeout for no reason, a drop by JSN, and the blocked field goal, like at minimum, they're tying that game. They might win the game, And so, it is a little troubling that we just kind of fold in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. They need to get better at that, but I can't blame just the defense for that, Monty. Like the offense doesn't put these teams away. Like you said, they're not going for the jugular because you can put these teams away by putting them like 3 scores down. You put a team like in the second half 3 scores down, you basically have neutered them. They're done, and we're not doing that. We're not destroying them when we have a chance to. We'll see. Maybe that's just the identity of this team, but they should be able to start doing things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I want to bring up a couple other questions that I started earlier, just for us to look at. Here from the weird one: if Neighbors plays this week's what's the stat line prediction?
Yeah, with the concussion, 25 targets, 17 receptions, 290 yards. Like what do you think?
I mean, I think he'll get targeted like a motherfucker. I think he'll probably get like 15 targets.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably end up with like 12, 13 catches, probably for like 130 yards and a touchdown at like that. I think a fair, like, honestly, at this point, if like there's always the reality that the Bengals put their entire defense focus on Malik Neighbors and forces us to go somewhere else, and that brings down his game to like below 100 yards. But from what we've seen, that feels like a very realistic, like honest, like prediction.
I'll believe they won't. You remember, like they weren't using Slayton at all until this game, and when Neighbors was literally not available. Then Slayton got a bunch of targets. They just replaced Neighbors with Slayton, right? And they said, all right, Slayton's gonna get all the targets, and Wandell's still gonna get a crap ton of targets as a secondary receiver, and nobody else gets any targets. Jalen Hyatt played 30 snaps, had zero targets. It's gotten a little ridiculous. I know some people think he's just not good. And I get it. He's a go route merchant. And when I say some people, I mean BBU Giants over here, who likes to battle you on the timeline about it. But he was a go route merchant in college. There's nothing different about that. He's really good at it. But like no targets, even when the guy's getting open, it's just it's strange.
He's just not in the game plan. I think
they just don't think he's good. That's the bottom line to me. They don't think he's good. They don't want to make him a central part of the game plan. His job out there is just pull a safety deep, and let other people do their job. And that's kind of what he's there doing. Yeah. Because you spent like 8 hours arguing with Monty on the timeline about this. That's
your fault. You tag us both and just say fight.
You two are amazing at that. The quote battles.
But no, I mean, look, and here's the reality at this point. Is if we're going to keep Slayton, which to be fair, if we're winning games like this, like we're not going to be sellers anytime soon. That kind of put that on at least on halt. We'll see where we're at the trade deadline. You need to get Slayton more involved. You can't just be throwing the football only to Malik Neighbors and Wandale Robinson. It's absolutely insane that the stat I saw the other day that we have 3 wide receivers on this team who have gotten a reception this season. 3. There's teams that have like, look, I'm not like freaking out about like the snap percentages for a wide receiver 4 or 5, but like usually we can get like these teams get like these guys like a catch. Not us. Not us. Every catch goes to Neighbors and Wandale Robinson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, along those lines, right? We mentioned it earlier. Daxton Hill, the starting nickel for the Bengals is done. So they now have Mike Hilton as their only nickel on the roster. They don't have another nickel on the not a true nickel. So they're going to have to bring somebody up to play nickel unless they move somebody in that position. But Mike Hilton is like their only nickel. The other starting corners are Cam Taylor-Britt and DJ Turner, who are their usual starters. But Mike Hilton in the nickel, Pittsburgh product. I mean, isn't this game set up perfectly for the Giants just to rotate Wandale Robinson and Malik Neighbors in the slot over and over and over again and target Mike Hilton? Just look for wherever he is. Number 21. Look for 20. Everybody look for number 21 on the field in the Bengals uniform like on Sunday. Like you got a guy, and maybe he'll be good. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, this is a backup. Actually, no, he's hurt, right? No, he's hurt, Mike Hilton. Who the hell is their nickel?
That's a good question.
Right.
Let's see. Bengals injury.
Do they even have a nickel?
So
I forgot that he's hurt.
We got Hilton. Hilton was a full participant. Hilton and DJ Ivy were both full participants today.
Okay, so he is going to play. So he's going to end up playing. All right. So, I mean, to me, it would be a shame to just target Nate, like, especially coming out of a concussion, targeting him like 15, 16 times in this game would be, I think, crazy. I don't put it past Dable and Jones, but I really think this is a game where whoever's lined up on their nickel where they have a weakness, you just feed that over and over again. And maybe the Bengals will try to protect against that, but you got to get everybody involved. If I recall, Darius Slayton only had 15 targets in 4 games leading into this game, right? Into the Seattle game or something tiny like that. I think he had 10 receptions and 15 targets.
He was running cardio until this game.
Right. So I don't want to see them go back to that, but like what we've seen in this offense, and I think it's more a staple of the offense than anything at this point is, I think Brian Dable's kind of coaching to Jones, like, whoever your first read is, like, that's where the ball's going.
Yeah.
And if it's not going there, like, then it's going to Wandale. I think that's the offense, right? Mm-hmm. So it used to be first read or run the B gap. Now it's first read or throw it to Wandale. So you're probably right. You're probably going to see like 18 targets to Neighbors, and not a lot to Slayton. But I think that would be a mistake. I think you could absolutely use Slayton in this game.
You got it. I mean, and he's a guy that Daniel Jones clearly trusts Malik Neighbors. I'm not saying he doesn't, but Slayton is a guy that he trusts with the deep ball, and a guy it seems like he has a little bit better chemistry trying to line up that deep ball, and they have a good feel for each other. So you want to get the deep ball going. Maybe have him. I mean, I say that, but he's also we go back to the Cowboys game and he overthrew Slayton like twice. But I don't know. Try to get this thing going with Slayton.
What about the run game? Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, we saw really good stuff out of Tracy. You and I had both talked about this for the season. We both foresaw that at some point in the season, Tyrone Tracy would take over as the starting running back over Devin Singletary because he offers more in terms of explosive plays, broken tackles, just a little bit more juice than Singletary has. You think this is the week, even though Singletary's back, you think this is the week where we actually see Singletary take a secondary role to Tracy while they're both healthy?
I think they'll both always retain a role. I think I should rephrase that. I think Singletary will always retain a role. I think he has a role in this offense. I think they trust him. I think he, has, it's interesting. Like Tyrone Tracy has a lot of missed tackle ability, but it's a little bit different than Singletary. Singletary is a little bit more shifty and has like a little bit better like vision, while Tracy is just such a one cut, physical, athletic runner who can really just great contact balance. It's just a little bit different. I think this has a making for a really good running back committee, and I think it should be they should split carries pretty close. And if somebody gets more, I think it should be Tracy. And yeah,
It's been like a 65-35 split between Singletary and Tracy up until now in the games they've played together. So I think it should be at minimum 50-50, but probably more like 60-40 Tracy is where I would hope to see this shift to this week.
I'll say too, look, here's the thing that we can't forget about Singletary. Singletary has been very, very, very involved as a pass protector. He is like he has some of the most pass protection reps of any running back in the NFL this year. He's been there and he's done a very good job. But I'll say this for Tracy though. I saw Tracy absolutely fucking demolish a linebacker this week. He showed some pass blocking chops. So I don't think they're going to be quick to rush a guy like Singletary off the field. I think they want to have that, but I do think Tracy they're going to want to keep him for pass protection, but I think Tracy offers that as well. So yeah, I think we'll get a lot more reps from Tracy. I'll put it that way, but I don't think Singletary is going to not be involved.
All right. Well, I think we've dissected this game quite a bit. We're at about an hour, a little more than an hour. We appreciate all of you guys who've been here, but let's start wrapping up with the stuff we usually do. So let's do some Giants predictions, and we'll get into the college football stuff for coming up for this weekend. So give me a prediction give me a final score and how you see this game going.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's going to come down to, for me, I think, is what Daniel Jones we see this week. If we can even see the Daniel Jones we've seen for the most part the last few weeks, I feel okay about it. He's done a decent job at executing his offense, but we can't see a meltdown primetime Daniel Jones that we've seen way too many times. I'm going to try to remain optimistic. I'm not expecting Seattle Daniel Jones, but I'm hoping you can continue the at least being an efficient guy who's not turning the ball over. And I think against this defense, I'm going to say 28-27 Giants.
Picking a Giants victory. I like it. So do you want my honest answer or what I'm gonna manifest?
Either one, man. You can save your manifesting or you can start it now. It's up to you.
So I'm gonna give you guys my honest answer. I just went on the whole episode saying I expect the Giants to win this game. They should win this game. I remain skeptical about primetime Daniel Jones. I remain skeptical about the Giants stacking victories, especially with the country watching them in primetime. I think that the Bengals, as bad as they've been, are a better team than they've shown, even on defense. And the fact that they had this players only meeting in the DB room, and I think they understand that their season's completely on the brink, and they happen to have a quarterback who is one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL, however you want to rank them. One of the truly few elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's playing at the best football he's really ever played. All of those things together, I feel like this is going to be a game where at the end of the day, the final score is going to be something like Bengals 27, Giants 16, something like that. I just have a bad feeling that like it'll end like that. I'm hoping that we actually get the stuff I'm talking about, where they actually stack victories here, and they put up a lot of points. But my honest feel is that I think we're gonna fall a little bit short for all those reasons. Losing Kayvon does hurt. It hurts a lot because he was anchoring our defense. And they're just little things like that I feel like are gonna slowly hurt us, and I can just see Joe Burrow slicing us apart. So unfortunately, I'm picking us to lose 27-16. But just because I'm picking us to lose doesn't mean that I think that's okay. I think the Giants have every opportunity to win this football game and win
Hmm.
it something like what you're saying or what Jabri is saying, 31-28 in overtime. That would be amazing. Um, so we'll see. We both have different outcome predictions here, but we'll see what happens. We're rooting for a win. Let's go into college football before we get into this. So next week, like I said, we're going to go into our linebackers. It's going to be a combination of, let's just say, off-ball linebackers. Inside and outside. We're combining two. But you guys should watch some fun games this weekend. So Friday night, I'm looking at it. There is a fun game at night, 10:30 game on ESPN. Number 16 Utah at Arizona State. That's always it's always a good time to watch those late games if you have a chance. There's some decent games this weekend, but there's nothing bigger than the 3:30 game on ESPN, the Red River Bowl.
Yep.
You got the top team in the country, number 1 Texas, led by, I guess Quinn Ewers is back now, right? Um, led by Quinn Ewers going up against Oklahoma, the 18th ranked team in the country. It's going to be played at a neutral site at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Texas is a 14.5-point favorite. Much better team than Oklahoma, to be honest, this year. But that game is always fun to watch. So the Red River game is at 3:30. I think it's worth watching. Do you see any games you like on the schedule?
It's a really interesting week for quarterback scouting. For everybody who I know everybody wants to keep an eye on these quarterbacks as Giants fans. I know you guys have been asking us about it. It's a big week for it. I mean, you have Sanders going up against Kansas State. That should be a good game, good one to
There's
scout for Shador Sanders.
there's one big powerhouse game. I was going to leave that to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's. Are you talking about LSU versus Mississippi
But
State?
for quarterbacks, no. But yeah, no. In terms of like just college football, you got the number 2 and number 3 teams in the country facing off against each other. 2 Big Ten rivals this year. Ohio State at Oregon. Now, Ohio State's number 2 in the country. Oregon's number 3 in the country right now. And right now, Ohio State is a 3-point favorite on the road.
Yeah,
In
man,
Oregon, that's a game to watch.
that is the game for sure. It's
Yeah,
a 7:30 or yeah,
the 7:30 game.
7:30. Yep.
It's on freaking Peacock. Uh, like, why do they do this? But we'll see.
But yeah,
And
that'll
then
be a great game.
at the same time, though, you got, like you were saying, number 9 Ole Miss going up against number 13 LSU at
A great
LSU,
game.
and that's a quarterback game. Like that's a game where you're going to see 2 guys who are likely to or potentially going to enter the NFL draft. I think they'll both declare this year. We'll see about Nussmeier, but
Nussmeier, we'll see where he's
I
going to
think
get protected.
Jackson Dart's going to declare this year. I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain. So Jackson Dart versus Garrett Nussmeier is a good game. You got number 11 Iowa State at West Virginia at 8:00 if you want to watch that. I know you'll be watching that.
Yep, and I'll be at West Virginia, Kansas State in 2 weeks.
Okay, you gonna do a little sideline reporting for us?
Yeah, do a little side report and do some scouting on our guy Garrett Green.
Monty's going to be going live from the drunk tank, for at West Virginia, a place he's familiar with, that and like the local prison. So
To answer Jabri's question, who does Milroe play? That's another good one. Jalen Milroe goes up against South Carolina. And one thing we know about South Carolina
that's an early game, isn't it? Yeah, it's a 12:00 game.
And they can get after the quarterback. South Carolina can get after the quarterback. So
a monster freshman player.
Dylan Stewart. That's going to be a fucking class in a couple years, 3 years. But man, Dylan Stewart is going to get after Jalen Milroe. Milroe has struggled with pressure at times, not so much in the Georgia game. They schemed around it. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. We talked about Quinn Ewers versus Oklahoma. That's a good one. We have Drew Aller versus Miller Moss, Penn State versus USC. That should be a good one. Drew Aller's getting a lot of hype recently. So, I want to get a better look at him, see if there's any hype worth looking at.
He's playing well.
Yeah. And then, we talked about the game of the week, Ohio State versus Oregon. Will Howard or Dylan Gabriel. I think those are more college quarterbacks, but something.
Yeah, I mean the way I'm gonna I probably won't be at home to see all these games, but if I was at home all day, the way I'd probably plan this out is I'd probably watch South Carolina, Alabama at 12:00 just so I can watch Milroe against that defense, and obviously I'd watch the Red River Bowl at 3:30. I'd watch Texas at Oklahoma, and then the evening game it's tough, but I think this is on Peacock, the Ohio State Oregon game. I guess they could figure out a way to watch that.
It says
Um,
NBC and then also says Peacock, so it might be both.
okay, hopefully it's NBC because I don't want to. Well, whatever. But I'll be honest. I think I'm probably going to watch Ole Miss at LSU and go back and forth on that one because I
Yeah.
do want to see. I think this game has a chance to be like a Jackson Dart versus Nussmeier like shootout, and it could be a lot of fun. We've talked about how Jackson Dart was lighting up a bunch of high school kids and putting up crazy stats, and people were saying, "Oh, QB1," and we're like, "Well, wait till his competition level goes up." The last 2 weeks he's played better competition. He has not looked good.
It doesn't look terrible, but certainly has not looked good.
Yeah. So, I do have multi-view. You're right. I could do that. But I don't like multi-view. I actually prefer to just like pick one game and go with it. Um, but
I'll have LSU on the laptop probably. Got relegated
yeah.
to a laptop.
But I mean, but listen, LSU's a legit team. If Jackson Dart can play well in this game, I think his stock will probably rise a little bit. So I'm looking for that. We'll get into the QB stuff when we get there, but I think Monty and I are kind of unless something drastically changes, we're kind of with the mindset like maybe the safest play for the Giants, depending on where they land in this draft class, will be, aiming for a day two quarterback. And I know people don't want to think about that, but this is if there was ever a class that was tailor made for taking a high upside developmental day two quarterback, it's actually this one. I think there are going to be a bunch of guys in this class who fall in that day two range.
I agree. And I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between the guys who are going day one and day two. I will say, though, we've talked about all this. I put this on Twitter. I got to look at the all 22, so I'm not going to get. But Jalen Milroe has my attention. Yeah, as a guy that we looked at this summer, a guy purely off his physical ability and his talent, who had a lot to fix, I was still very interested in him. Nobody's grown more as a passer in Jalen Milroe this year. So
even last week, even his
even losing to Vanderbilt, he looked great as a passer.
Making great reads, layering throws into zone. Like he was doing things even in a bad game where you're like, that's a football player who's adapting and growing. His footwork has improved. That was one of the knocks on him was his mechanics. His mechanics have become much more reliable. His footwork has improved. His throwing motion has improved. His ability to read defenses and make layered throws has improved. He looks like gets the ball out quick. He's not taking as many sacks. He is absolutely showing the signs of progression that I think I previously compared him to. Stan reminded me, our friend Stan, that like I compared him to the progression of Anthony Richardson. And I'm not talking about Anthony Richardson struggling in his second year with injuries. I'm talking about Anthony Richardson in his final year of college, his first year of starting really like full time at Florida, where week after week you saw Richardson's progression as a quarterback, where he was becoming better and better. Mechanics were getting cleaner and cleaner, and his ability to read defenses was rapidly improving. You saw like a really special prospect getting better after every week. Even though he still came out as a raw prospect, there was a lot there to like. I think Milroe is firmly on that trajectory right now. And he's showing you the signs that you need to see for a young quarterback. Now, if he does those things and he shows you that he can read defenses, that he can beat zone, he can get the ball out quick. Between his natural God-given ability as a runner, his cannon of an arm, and all of those things, you're talking about a very special prospect. Then, if he does that throughout the season, he's probably going top 10, probably top 5, to be honest, if he does those things. So we got to see. And if you want access to Jalen Milroe, it means you're going to have to take him, in the first round somewhere.
100%.
If he plays like that. But if he shows any signs of regression, Monty, I mean, this, like if he doesn't have enough yet in his arsenal where and he hasn't been as good as AR was, to be honest. Like what AR was doing by like October and November of college, like he was putting up, some pretty spectacular passing games. He's putting up like 400 yards, and
he had very good pocket presence.
Right, and his pressure to sack rate was elite. If I recall, it was like 9% or 10% or something like that. He's obviously a freakish talent. So Milroe, I don't as good as he's been, he hasn't been that.
Yeah. And
But
he's
if
not
he
6'5", 250. Like he's big and
right,
athletic, but he's not the freak Richardson was.
right, he wasn't Josh Allen, like
Mhm.
sitting back there physically. But if he stacks a lot of good games together, fine. But if he has some hiccups along the way, I can 100% see Milroe's stock like be a tweener where people are like day one, day two grade.
100%. But
More like a Will Levis type grade. Not that they're
mm,
comparable as players, but in terms of the grading, you
yeah,
may see that from him.
and he's not. I mean, he's a redshirt junior, so he's a fourth year guy. So he's a little bit older. He's young. He's young for his grade. To be fair, I think he's only 21 right now, so he's still younger for like his year. But this is the last thing I'll kind of say, and we'll get into Milroe when we do our quarterback episode. He does, although he can't collapse and go back to like all the bad habits and that type of stuff like he did last year. He can't just suddenly like have these terrible games. He does not need to develop to the passer and like the player some of these other guys have to get to. Like he
Mhm.
has enough of that God-given ability that if he just shows like, okay, this guy can be an NFL passer, that's gonna be enough for a lot of teams.
No, I agree. All right, man. You want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, that
Just
works for me, man.
just vibing. No real plan today. Just enjoying the episode, and we appreciate you guys being here with us. We're gonna close it out with our usual stuff. You can please hit the like button before you guys head out. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Tell your friends. Pass on. Retweet the He's a Giant Pod. Help us grow. You can find me at Queens_guy. You can find Monty at MONTECRI5TO. You can find us collectively at He's a Giant Pod on Twitter. We are on all your platforms: YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We will usually the episode drops on the other platforms beyond YouTube the next day. We'll be back next week going over off-ball linebackers. Looks like a good class so far. So we're gonna have some breakdowns for you guys. And other than that, go Giants.
Fuck it, go Giants.
Fuck it.